Good afternoon, everybody, or good evening, I guess, wherever you are. It is Saturday with the Safety and the Sportswriter show with Knoxville Nate and Big Joe as we get to talk to you about the world of sports, and especially since it is Final Four weekend. We're going to take on a little college basketball tonight. We are about a little over a half hour away from the first semifinal, which has Florida Atlantic taking on San Diego State. And then later on, we have UConn against Miami. We'll get into what we think about those games and a lot of other things. But we're going to get up. One thing I wanted to start out with, I know you got a lot to talk about too. Jim Larinaga, I don't know if you heard, came out this week, the coach of Miami, and kind of jumped on the bandwagon about expanding the NCAA tournament, which I don't know. I think it's perfect the way it is right now with 64 teams. He wants like 90 teams, and the first thing that came to mind is it's not going to help deserving team get in. You know who they would brought on if we had more teams in this year? You'd have Michigan, you'd have Syracuse that had bad years. You wouldn't have, you know, a team like say Yale or a team that's close to me. Fordham won 25 games for the first time since maybe the 1960s. That wouldn't help them get into the tournament. They'd be helping to get the continual what people like to call the blue bloods who don't deserve to be there. You know they would have squeezed Bayheim in there somehow. So I don't see how this is a solution. And I also think we're going to get a lot of crappy teams. It's going to do what the bowls are left with now: under 500 teams making the bowl games. And I just think the load of crap, and I think wish they would stop it. I don't know. What do you think about it?
No one, I mean, if you ever notice, no one watches the bowl game where it's the 5-7 team
Right.
versus the 6-6 team. No one watches that crap. And
Right.
that's exactly what will happen to this tournament if they allow more teams to come in it. Why on God's green earth would you touch this tournament right now? Have you watched any of the games this year? They've
Yeah.
been freaking unbelievable.
Exactly.
There is absolutely nothing wrong with this March Madness. There is nothing wrong with this NCAA tournament. That's why the NCAA will figure out a way to screw it up.
Right.
Because it's perfect. I didn't even really like the play-in game thing. I was like, stupid. Give me the 16 seed in the bracket and just call it a day. But you know what? Dayton, Ohio, who hosts the play-in tournament, has actually enjoyed it. It doesn't really bother me anymore, but I think it's got to stop somewhere. There's no reason to let anyone else play in. There's no reason to let anyone else in this tournament. The teams that are at home for a reason. Right. They didn't deserve to be here, and for whatever reason, they didn't make it. Sorry. Do better next year. Win more games. Get more quad one victories. Have a better strength of schedule. You know what it takes to get in the tournament. These coaches at these blue blood schools know exactly what they have to do to make the tournament. They know who they have to beat. They know which games they have to win. They know what needs to be done. So if they don't make it, deal with it, get better next year, play in the NIT, whatever. But to expand this field any more than it already is, would start to dilute it and make it worse.
I know, and it's like, what are you going to do? Shorten the conference tournaments? Not have conference tournaments? How are you going? I mean, where just a time wise, how are you going to fit it in? Right now, you're bumping up against baseball, college baseball, lacrosse, and everything else. I mean, I don't know. I just don't see why all these people. I understand why a coach would want it because they always want to be in the tournament. But the fact of the matter is, it's ridiculous. I mean, Bayheim for years was crying about it, and that's just because the years, and he was making the tournament. He was crying about it. I don't get it. I'm sick of it. It reminds me of in our state where I live. It used to be you had to have at least a 500 record to make our state tournament. Now you have to win 40% of your games. Well, what? Why are you even playing? Why just have a tournament all year long? You're not even playing for anything.
No, they expanded the high school football playoffs here in Tennessee, and it has been an absolute disaster. The first round games every single season, it's like 64-0, and that's only because they changed the rules now here too, where if you're up by like 35 at halftime, the second half is a running clock.
Right.
So the games in the first round are just absolute jokes because there's teams playing in the playoffs that shouldn't be there. which will be exactly what happens in the NCAA tournament if they have teams from an expanded bracket playing. There'll be teams that shouldn't be there. There'll be blowouts. There'll be some upsets. Obviously, there always is with this thing, but there's no reason to mess with this. This tournament is perfect the way it is. I haven't heard one person complain about this tournament. Oh, it would be better if LaSalle was in it. I mean, I haven't heard anyone say that. So shut up, win more games if you want to get in.
The worst thing up around here, not so much ESPN radio, but the Fan and these guys, they ignore college sports all year long. They ignore it. They don't even talk about it. Then all of a sudden, I'm listening this morning, and one guy's complaining that I won't name him. Oh, there's no juice in this final. Why? Because Kentucky didn't make it? Because UCLA didn't make it? It's too bad. They lost. You don't have the tournament at all. Pick 4 teams like they tried to do with football and have that be your Final Four. Let's get over with it. It's just ridiculous. You can't make happy at all. But I get really insulted, living up in this area. I love college sports. A lot of people around here don't. They don't have time for it. We have so many pro teams and stuff up here. But if you don't watch it, you don't pay attention to it, then shut the F up.
Yeah, no, it's the same people that complain that all the same teams are in the football Final Four every year. They're like, right. Oh, it's Ohio State, it's Alabama, it's, Clemson, it's whomever, Georgia. Every year, this is boring. And then they complain when in basketball, some underdogs make it. And it's right. Like, well, how are we going to make you happy? Because you have some underdogs get in and make the Final Four, and you complain that it's not watchable. And then we have the same teams go in and do the Final Four in football, and the people all up north and in New York City, the writers up there complain about that. And it's like, did you watch the Ohio State Georgia game? There couldn't have. I mean, my team lost, so I'm still wounded from right. That game. But how could you not have enjoyed that? That was like one of the greatest games I've seen in college football in years. 43-42 final with the last second heave trying to win it. I mean, it's a great game. So. I don't know how you can complain about the Final Four this year in football, not to mention the Final Four here in basketball. I mean, I'm not a fan of any of these teams, but, man, I give them credit for the way they played and the teams they beat to get where they are.
I mean, UConn, for someone from Connecticut, UConn, and to have them back being what they used to be under Jim Calhoun, it's nice to have them back in the fold. A lot of good things are going on about college basketball here, but still, the press will ignore it. I mean, hopefully Rick Pitino can put St. John's back on the map. Seton Hall is nice when they get a couple of runs going. The Big East is starting to get back to where it used to be. Will it be back to what it was in its heyday back in the 80s and 90s? Maybe not, but it's starting to get their power back.
I agree, and I don't think that Dan Hurley has got the credit that he deserves. I mean, what a job he's done since taking over UConn. The program was kind of in a little bit of a disaster mode when he got there. They were in the American Athletic Conference. I believe they had just had the falling out with what's his name, Kevin Ollie, all the turmoil going on with that. He steps in. The program's around a 500 team. He goes 19-12 the second year. Then in the COVID year, they go 15-8. Last year they were 23-10. This year 29-8, and he's in the Final Four. I mean, why are people not talking more about this guy? I don't know. I mean, he's done an absolute phenomenal job, and I can't believe that. I got to be honest. I did not think UConn was this good. I really didn't. But if you've watched this tournament and you've paid attention to the tournament, they have been the most dominant team of everyone so far. They've won games more in a more dominant fashion than any other team in this entire tournament. And they've got it all. They've got good guards. They've got good big players. They can shoot the ball from the outside. They can rebound. They can defend. They can score. He's done a phenomenal job, and this team is really, really good and looks to be set up for the future.
I saw a great interview with him where I loved how honest he was in his interview, because they talked about him and how his career had gone, and he sat there and he goes, I thought I was going to be a high school coach like my father, and I guess he was at some place called St. Benedict's or something.
Yeah, St. Benedict's Prep.
Right, and he started producing a lot of his players, and he's going, well, if I'm good enough to coach him here, why can't I try him at the next level? And then they asked him about this year because they got off to a really hot start. And then they went into a little bit of a lull. And he said, well, you got to understand. I loved his honesty. He goes, like, we were playing out a lot of out of conference player teams early in the year. We took advantage of that. We got a lot of victories out of it. But then when we got into the Big East, where you're playing good teams every night, we took a step back and we had to regroup and find our game again. And now, it toughened us, and now we're playing well. Which is I love to hear the when a coach is honest with the press. We'll be honest and talk about, hey, everybody knows college basketball. I mean, most good coaches know you set up your schedule in November and December to get as many victories as possible in the bank. So when you get into your conference and you start playing the real games for your seedings and for your conference championship, you already got at least half of your tournament wins in your back pocket. So,
yeah, I mean, it happens to a lot of teams. I mean, the injuries pop up, guys aren't 100%. You ball bounces not your way a couple of games, but look what he's done with this team. At the end of the year when it matters, he's won the big games. He's really developed some guys. That Sanago guy averages 17 points, almost 8 rebounds a game, shooting 60% from the floor. He's a junior right now. That guy is one of the best players I've seen all year long, and no one really talks about him. And then you've got Jordan Hawkins, who averages over 16 points too. So 2 guys that can fill it up and are consistently scoring every night. And then, as I mentioned, they do everything else well too. And this guy comes from a basketball family. Let's be honest. His brother, Bobby Hurley, one of the greatest point guards in college basketball history. I think Danny played at Seton Hall.
Yeah, he did.
If I remember
correctly. He was a solid shooting guard at Seton Hall. He was a good contributor. He wasn't as good as his brother, but like you said, he's got a pedigree, and you could tell he knew what he was doing.
Well, yeah, I mean, his dad is a legend. He was Bob Hurley Sr. He was the coach at St. Anthony, which was a Catholic school in New Jersey. They were a high-powered basketball program for years until 2017 when the school closed. But that was one of the best high school programs in the country. And, they all went there, and you can tell this guy knows what he's doing and knows the game of basketball.
Yeah, I forget the name of it, but there's a great documentary about Bob Hurley. It was towards the end of the run at St. Anthony's when they were basically, putting up a bucket out in front of the school, going throw some money in so we can keep this place open.
Yeah,
and it was an amazing job. I mean, and for over a decade, him and I think it was a nun that kept that place going for about the last decade, and then finally they just the crunch got to them and they had to give it up. But
they had some amazing players, man. I mean, Terry DeHeer was from there.
Another Seton Hall guy.
Bobby Danny Hurley, and then Rashad McLeod, who played at Duke, was from there. I'm trying to think who else. Tyshawn Taylor played there. Luther Wright, who played for Memphis. They've had a bunch of guys that went on to play big-time college basketball and professional basketball. So it's a shame that program won, because they won they won 4 national championships.
Right.
Okay. I'm not talking about state championships. They won 28 state titles in New Jersey, which, let's be honest, man, New Jersey's got some ballers.
Oh, yeah.
And the name of that documentary is The Street Stops Here.
Yeah. Great documentary.
Unbelievable. You got to watch it. 28 state championships, 4 national championships. It's worth watching this documentary.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a basketball fan, just a story about him, it's inspiring, and it's great. And it's the way he treated his players, and he knew how to he gave them discipline, gave them a good plan, and it worked out. But the tournament so far, like we said, has been spectacular. I think tonight, I don't really have a feeling about the first game, but the second game, as a UConn fan, I'm kind of scared. First of all, I respect Larry Naga as a coach. And I think Miami's a pretty good team. I mean, were they in the Elite Eight last year?
I believe they were.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. I can't remember if it was at least Elite Eight. It was either Elite Eight or Final Four.
Right. I know. I think it was the Elite Eight. But, you know, you usually on a run to the title, in one of the 6 games, you struggle. And UConn has not struggled yet. And I just have this feeling, I don't say they won't win, but I think they're going to have to work for it with this Miami team. I think that Miami's going to give them some problems.
This is a good team, man. I mean, they were good all year long. Honestly, thought they were kind of not disrespected, but given a 5 seed when you're were they 26-7 to start the year? I thought that was a little bit high for them, honestly, but that was because nobody gave the ACC any credit. But this team was good all year long. They were the best team. I mean, I'm a Duke fan, and I'm telling you right now, this was the best team in the ACC, and they had some good wins. I mean, they beat Houston in the postseason. They beat Indiana, Texas. They've gone through the ringer to get here, and during the regular season, they had some really good wins. Beating Duke and some other good teams along the way. So I like this team a lot. I'm with you. Jim Larinaga has been a coach for a long time. The fact that he can still relate to these kids at his age is pretty impressive. And I don't think he gets the credit he deserves, considering this is now second year in a row that he's been to the Elite Eight or further. And he made another Sweet 16, I believe, in 2016. So he's been there. He's been there for a while. He's been there since 2011.
Yeah, and he broke UConn's hearts with George Mason.
Yeah, he made a Sweet 16 in 2013. So he's been to the Sweet 16 around 4 or 5 times now with this Miami team. And anybody that thinks this is still a football school doesn't have a clue what they're talking about. This is a basketball school now, son.
I think you hit it right on the head there. Let's talk about a lot of the coaching changes, the transfer portal, things that are going on. The Patino, there's not a lot of excitement around here, which sucks because like I said, we don't pay enough attention to the college games around here. But has the transfer portal, in your estimation, helped these teams a lot, or what do you think about it?
It's a really weird thing right now. I mean, I think you're seeing the effects of the transfer portal start to take shape. A lot of these teams that used to be in the Final Four every year aren't there, and that's because they have kids for a year, a lot of the time, maybe 2 years at most, because they either play really well and they go on to the league, or they go play professionally, or B, they don't do well and they transfer out to another school where they get more playing time, or they have a fresh start. Right. There's just no longer any of these teams, these blue blood teams, have guys that have been there for 3 or 4 years. And that's why some of these other teams are kicking their ass, because they play together, in a manner that just can't be replicated by kids that have been together for 3 months.
Right.
And that's what you got. Kentucky, I'm a Duke fan, but Duke's the same way. They just started to play together at the end of the year and really struggled throughout the season because we had seven freshmen and 4 grad transfers. And that was our whole roster. And it's just hard to win. I mean, the fact they won the ACC tournament showed you just the amount of talent they had, because it's tough to get together in 3 or 4 months. And if you look at a team like North Carolina, they've had 6 guys, Joe, transfer since the end of the season. 6 guys. And, Armando Bacot is coming back for his 9th season. So you got one guy who's been there 9 years, and you got everybody else is jumping ship. And they don't really have that great of a recruiting class. So I'm kind of weirded out by what's going on. I love it, but I'm weirded out by what's going on in North Carolina. Tennessee, another team that I'm real close with, had 5 guys that were seniors, yet they all could come back because of the COVID year. Right. So it's really going to be weird to see what happens with some of these COVID guys, because schools don't really have scholarships set up for them after the 4th year. I mean, yeah, they have eligibility to play basketball, but does the school have a scholarship for these guys? A lot of times the answer is no.
Well, can the NIL step in and help them out? I mean, all you need is one booster to hire them to do something.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure, but do these kids want to take some of the money that they could put in their pocket and use it to pay for their school? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so, man. I mean, even Tennessee here is almost 20 grand a year if you're paying for it out of pocket.
Right.
So, do you want to take that 20 grand and put it in your wallet, or do you want to pay the university to play there? I mean, they're going to find schools that'll give them a ride. So there's some school, if they're good enough, that'll find these guys a scholarship to pay for them. I mean, Olivier Nakamwa, the guy that scored 28 points against Duke in that second round matchup with Tennessee, he transferred. He's transferring out because he wanted to come back and play. And I'm speculating here, but I'm guessing Coach Barnes is like, we love you, but we handed you your jersey at senior night.
Right.
And, that was kind of us saying goodbye because we just don't have a scholarship for you. We've got 3 post players recruited, and we've got other guys transferring into the program because we kind of thought you were gone.
Yeah, and you got to make those decisions because, like you said, you got a kid coming in from high school who's ready to play, or prep school, wherever he is. Maybe he did a PG year or whatever, and he's ready to play. You got to get him in there, and at some point, you got to let him. You got to cut the cord. You got to go. You got to go somewhere else. But it's the thing about basketball over football is it's 1 or 2 players can make such a difference, and
Right.
and it just that's all you need sometimes. That's why you hear right now, and up here I'm kind of jaded because I'll compare it to football or to baseball. As a Met fan watching the Yankees do it for years, now the Mets are doing it. I hate the thought of a bunch of mercenaries ending up in St. John's just to help them get back on track with Patino, but I guess that's what's going to happen. And, it's going to be interesting the kind of players he can get to come in here. I just think somehow Patino has to get St. John's back to the Garden.
Well, you can get some transfers in and improve your team. But I really feel like for me, the transfer portal is more about filling a need that you haven't met with recruiting. If you try and build your team that way, you've seen what it looks like. I just don't think you're going to have the type of success that you will if you have a kid that's been here for a year, 2, 3 years, knows the system, knows the other players, knows what the goal is in line with what the coach wants out there. There's a big difference between a team that's been recruited, played together for a year or 2, and a team that's not. And you know what? It's interesting to me also. We talked about North Carolina and Tennessee and a couple of these other teams. A lot of the Duke guys are coming back. Tyrese Proctor would have been a first-round pick, no doubt. He's coming back. Also, Mark Mitchell, who would have been a first-round draft pick, he's coming back. So they've got 2 of the 5 from last year, and they've got 5 of the top 30 coming in. 5. That's crazy to me. Kentucky and Duke both have 5 of the top 30 players in the country. So out of the top 30, 10 of them are going to Duke or Kentucky.
Well,
it's crazy.
I'm a big believer. It's good for the basketball players to stay in. You see how many of these guys come out and get themselves, they're not ready. They can't do the NBA season though. That 80 game season compared to what do you play if you go half of that in college basketball?
Oh yeah, less than half, yeah.
Right. And then your maturity level, a 19 and 18 or an 18, 19, 20-year-old hanging around with 25, 30-year-old guys that are millionaires. And yes, you're going to be a millionaire too, but you don't even know how to use your money yet and things like that. All you do is get into trouble. And I think keeping them, they should stay in school at least through 2 years. I would say 3 years, but 2 years at least. Then you've played at a higher level. You're not coming right, 1 year up to from high school, and then you're in the pros. I mean, not too many guys can do that.
In my opinion, I mean, I'd like to hear yours, but my opinion is that basketball should be like baseball. You can go right to the NBA out of high school if you want. If teams want to draft you, if you think you're going to get drafted very high and you think that you're ready, by God, you should be allowed to go.
Yeah,
but if you Yeah, but if you if you're not and you choose, hey, I'm not going to the draft, I'm not ready right now, and you choose to go to college, you should have to stay 3 years. Like
I agree.
that's how they do it in baseball, and it works really well. These baseball programs are able to build teams. These guys are ready, more ready to play, and they've been in the program for 3 years, and it just to me that makes a lot of it makes almost too much sense. I guess
Right.
is why basketball doesn't do it.
No, I totally agree. That would be a great system because, like, yeah, the school's committing to you, commit to them for 3 years. I mean, I don't see how I think even Calipari has made a career out of the one and doneers, but I think if he had his choice, he'd want to keep these guys 2 or 3 years. So he didn't have to go out and get a new team every year. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
no,
for
it's
everybody
hard. I mean,
involved,
look at all the talent he's had there, and yes, he's won. He won 2 titles. I mean, that's good, but considering the talent he's had, winning 2 titles isn't great. I mean,
and
they've
it's been a
had
while.
yeah, and it's been some time. So he's had a lot of really good basketball players to only win 2 championships because it's hard to get them to play together like that in such a short period of time.
Yeah, everybody's talking about Krista or what's her name, Clark, Caitlin Clark today. Did you see any of that game?
Yeah, the Iowa player.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I got to be honest. I knew she was really good. I've seen her play before. She's legit. But I did not think that she was going to play like that against South Carolina. I mean, that South Carolina team was undefeated, has dominated all year long, and I was kind of shocked to see her have that kind of performance against a team that good.
well, it's really an eye opening experience up here because let's face facts. Up until 2 years ago, I mean, UConn just dominated the women's game, and now they're kind of on the outside looking in. Gino's going to have to retool or do something to get himself back up to his dominating ways. But
I hope he doesn't.
yeah, I know. Well, I've had a very little talk. My nephews had some experience knowing Gino, and most people say he's a good guy
Uh,
overall.
yeah, he is one of the biggest dicks I've ever met in my
Really?
life. Oh my God. I was just like, whoa. I couldn't believe it. Honestly, I was just like, I thought he was joking at first. And then after a while, I realized he was being dead serious. And I was just like, dude, I don't care who you are. I'm not impressed. And he just had kind of an attitude problem every
Maybe he had
time
a bad
every
day.
time I met him. Every time.
You met him more than once? Okay.
Yeah, several
Okay.
times. Him and Charlie Weiss were the two guys. I was around coaches my whole life, and those were really the only two guys that were ever super rude to me. So
Yeah. Charlie
I will.
Weiss. Charlie Weiss isn't going to make it the Hall of Fame. He still has to get a ticket to get in the Hall of Fame, even though he thinks he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Man, that guy was the worst Notre Dame coach of all time.
Jerry Faust was right up there too. I mean, but at least Jerry Faust, from what everybody said, was a nice guy. So he,
Yeah, so he wins.
yeah, and he was from Moeller High School in Ohio. He did a great job coaching there as a high school coach. So
No doubt. They got a good program there.
but so overall with the what else you want to talk about with college basketball?
I just I think that this has been a great tournament. I mean, I
Yeah,
really do. I think just I've never seen so many upsets before, and I'm okay with this. I
yeah.
really am. I mean, you know what? It's been enjoyable to watch from start to finish. I think this is what it's all about. I mean, you want to see some of these small teams make it. You want to see some of these teams that nobody thought would be in the Final Four. See them there and see them doing it. They deserved it. All these teams have earned it, and I've really enjoyed watching it. I do think too. I don't know if you saw, but today Marquette's Shaka Smart got the AP Coach of the
Yeah, so
Year.
he deserves
Good
it.
for him, man. Good for him. He's done a great job at Marquette. It's a good program, and really once they get a coach in there that knows what he's doing and has proven himself elsewhere, he usually finds a way to get guys to come in from Chicago, Milwaukee area and build something. And he had a great season, and I'm happy to see him get the Coach of the Year because he kind of got the shaft at Texas.
Yeah, and that's the thing about college basketball over college football is a small, well, a private college like Marquette. Uh, because, like we said, you get 2 or 3 players and a good supporting cast, you can make something happen if you're a good coach. And I go back to the Al McGuire days of Marquette, so I always have I always liked Marquette, and to have them back in the national prominence, and I think he's going to stay. It's going to be really interesting when you think, like I said before, UConn back on track, Marquette back on track, Rick Pitino coming in. Seton Hall's got the coach that was at St. Peter's last year, who Raheem did not have a great year this year, but I'm sure he can straighten it out. Jim Boeheim's gone, but even the ACC, I shouldn't even go there. The interesting thing, like someone said, I was listening today, it was is Providence and Georgetown are going to become hated rivals now.
Yeah,
because Georgetown stole their coach.
Yeah, no, that should be interesting. And there's a couple other, things of note. Rodney Terry getting the job at Texas, definitely deserved it.
Yep.
Did an amazing job after all the things that went down there. And then, I also saw that my boy Aaron McKee got fired at Temple. And they hired Adam Fisher. But Temple's a program too that when I was a kid, Temple was in the
John
tournament
Chaney.
Every year. John Chaney was the coach, and they had players upon players coming in out of there. Eddie Jones, Mark Macon, Aaron McKee, you name it. They had a baller every single season, and to see them struggle like they have has kind of been rough. But I thought it was very interesting that Chris Beard gets fired at Texas, and not even 2 months later, Ole Miss hires him.
Right.
They're like, oh yeah, well, little domestic violence situation. Yeah, we'll take him. He can win here. So we don't really care about that. So they brought him in. And then I don't know if you saw too, Georgia Tech fired Josh Pastner.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, the coach that was at Memphis for quite some time, and then been at Georgia Tech for a while. They replaced him with Damon Mighty Mouse Stoudemire.
Wow.
So a guy from the past who played at Arizona and played in the NBA for a long time. And then the man that's known for his dance moves, Mark Mad Dog Madsen, gets the head coaching job at Cal. So we all remember.
He was a Stanford guy, right? Wasn't Madsen a Stanford guy?
Yes, he was a Stanford guy and won all those titles with the Lakers.
Yeah, I tell you, I liked. I always liked Stanford back in the Mike Montgomery days. He always put together a good team. He never could win the championship or anything, but he always had a solid team out there. So maybe Madsen would do some good out in Cal. It's good to have UCLA back. Cronin's done a great job out there.
He's done, and that's that was going to be Rick Barnes taking that job. And I got to be honest, I love Rick Barnes, and I think he's a great coach. But I don't know if he'd do the same kind of job that Cronin's done there. I mean, this guy has turned UCLA back into an ultra competitive, relevant team.
Yeah, I thought I was a little disappointed. Well, Gonzaga, came out late to take him out, but I mean, I was a little bit shocked, that I was expecting them to they were my championship pick, I should say. So
who UCLA was?
Yeah.
Hey, they played great, man. I mean, they lost that game against Gonzaga, but that was last second shot. You can't really get mad about that. They played a really good game.
Not a 35-footer.
Yeah, no kidding. It was a good game. They played good basketball. So he took them to the Final Four last year. So
right.
They've been playing well under him.
And let's take it up to the NBA a little bit as we get down to the Final Four, games of the season. The Knicks have been a good story up here. They put together. It's funny as they stayed the course with the coach and everything else, and didn't go out and get anybody really big outside of Brunson, and they're looking really good. But I don't know if they're playoff tough. I don't know if they're ready for that. I don't know if they're ready for prime time. But they've been a good story. Well, whereas the Brooklyn Nets, well, they were the horror show for most of the year.
Yeah, I mean, it's shocking to me that the Nets are still in the playoff race.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that is a testament to their coach.
Yeah, Jacques Vaughn.
Once again, Jacques Vaughn. I mean, we've liked him ever since his performance in the bubble. The fact that he's got them at 42 and 35 after all their superstars jumped ship, and he basically had to change the entire game plan and the team around. I think he deserves more credit than he's done. And look at the job, Darvin Ham. I got to admit, when they hired him, I was kind of like, what are they doing? I thought they wanted to win. And really, the last couple of weeks, the Lakers have been playing good basketball, even with LeBron on the shelf. So Darvin Ham's got them in the 7th position right now. And they've started to play. So the West is going to be very interesting, in my opinion. A lot of good teams out there, but the most surprising team of all is got to be the Sacramento Kings. I mean, tell me, Vlade frickin' Divac was on the court the last time the Kings were relevant. I mean, it was Peja Stojakovic, it was Mike Bibby, it was Vlade Divac. I mean, it was a long time ago that the Kings were relevant. In fact, a lot of times the Sacramento's where players went to die because no one even ever saw
what he held.
Yeah, I mean, everybody went out there and you were just like, what happened to this guy? And like, oh, they're on the Kings. Gotcha. Because you never saw him play. They were horrible. But right now they're 47-30. And that's just, to me, is tremendous. 3rd place in the West. I mean, are you freaking kidding me? When is the last time the Kings, I really want to know this because I don't know the answer. When is the last time that the Kings were 3rd in the West?
Chris Webber, the Chris Webber days.
It's been a long time, man, but they've got, they've got some players out there now and they've started to play together. And a couple of the guys, they've kept around for a long time. They've had Harrison Barnes for a couple of years. De'Aaron Fox, they drafted, a long time ago, and he's been on the squad ever since. They picked up Malik Monk in the offseason, Sabonis. This is a good team, and I don't know if they have the guys to get deep in the playoffs, but just the fact that they're 3rd right now is just astonishing to me.
Well, and back to, I mean, you named off a lot of really, really good players, but they're not they didn't have to go out and get the Kevin Durant. They didn't have to go out and get LeBron. Is this the start of a new NBA way of doing things where, it was getting kind of, all the buddies want to play together so that the 3 superstars would get together and they'd go to a team together and try and win a championship there. Outside of the Heat and the Celtics, it didn't really work. I mean, you could talk about Durant going to Golden State, but the Splash Brothers were there waiting for him along with Draymond. Has the NBA been taught a lesson that just because the 2 guys want to play together and make their max contracts together doesn't mean you're going to win anything?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully the NBA's learned a lesson about these guys doing that. I mean, the Nets were just a disaster, and we knew that going in. We both said that. We're like, James Harden, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. I mean, 3 of the most talented basketball players
divas
in the last 10, 15 years. But I mean, those guys by themselves cause problems, and you put them together and see what you get. But I think what the Kings have proved is having a coach still matters. I mean, Mike Brown is a guy that no one really gave any credit to when he was the head coach of the Lakers or the Cavaliers. Also, I believe he was the head. I think that's the only place he's been the head coach at. But this guy's been an assistant everywhere. He was an assistant for Steve Kerr in Golden State. He was a long-time assistant for Greg Popovich in San Antonio. This dude is a really good coach, and he's proven himself to be a tremendous coach with what he's done this year. But, he's got some players too. Like we just said, De'Aaron Fox is a guy they drafted a while ago. And look what he's doing this year. I mean, 25 points a game from your point guard. That's pretty legit, especially considering he's averaging 6 assists. And then you've got Sabonis, who's kind of like a throwback guy, like his dad, averages 19 points, averages 12 rebounds, and almost 8 assists.
Yeah.
So he almost averages a triple-double.
And I think center.
Yeah, he really is. He really is. I mean, this guy leads them in almost every category except for points, but he averages almost 20 points. So he's really impressive, and I think some people sleep on him for how good he is.
Well, the thing about him is, like, we always said when his father was playing, everybody used to tell you, man, if you ever saw him when he was playing over in Russia or over in Europe, he was when he had good knees and everything. They go,
Yeah.
that was the real him. Well, now we're seeing his son, who probably is, mini me. It's a carbon copy of him. So we're seeing what he would have shown off for us. And
No doubt.
even when his father came here, he was impressive as hell. Even
Yeah.
when he,
No.
on bad legs.
Yeah, he was a guy like nobody else, had ever been. That point center, he kind of invented the position, and it's used today, especially over in Europe, but also in the NBA. And it's been impressive to see. But the third place in the West, I mean, I'm still saying that because that is absolutely unbelievable, considering the heavy hitters out there: the Nuggets, the Grizzlies, the Suns, the Clippers, the Warriors, the Lakers, all those teams. They've got a tough task to get to the conference championship, but the fact that they're third place right now is unbelievable.
Yeah, and well, what's your opinion going into the playoffs? Who, if you had to pick a finals right now, what you've seen, what would be your final pairing?
Right now, I've got a hard time right now in the East because the Bucks and the Celtics, to me, those are the two best teams. I mean, I top to bottom. I can't tell you which one's better though, because it doesn't. I don't really know. I mean, both those teams can beat each other on any given night. One of the teams is 55-22. The other one's 54-24. They both have two superstars. I think both of those teams are worthy of making it to the finals. Out west, I got to be honest. I'm not really in love with the Grizzlies so much. I mean, I know that they've got a good record. I know they're currently only two games back out of first. But with all the stuff that's gone on with Ja this year,
Yeah.
and just with the way I've seen this team play at times, I'm not as big a believer in them. And I like Denver more than them. I actually, honestly, I think if Memphis played Phoenix in a playoff series, I would probably favor Phoenix. And I'm still not counting out the Warriors because you get them if they're healthy going into the playoffs, they could make a run for sure.
Yeah, they've been there, done that.
They did it last year, man.
Now not to bring him up. He's been off our radar a little bit, but I mean, Kyrie goes down and blows up Dallas. I mean, you would think of all the owners. I mean, Mark Cuban, like him, don't like him, whatever. He is a player's owner. He will take care of his players. You would think this was the one guy as an owner that could get to this kid and say, "Look, you're really are becoming a pariah. I mean, how many more chances do you think you're going to get? This could be your last chance."
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know how he's sat there and watched what has happened everywhere else. I mean, especially in Boston. I mean, think about Boston and what happened with him there. And then, like, as soon as he was gone, bam, they're in the finals. Right. And it's just like as soon as he leaves, a team gets better, which is hard to believe considering he's probably the best scoring guard in the entire NBA, if not, as far as creating his own shot. He's got to be the best. And yet, it doesn't relate to wins because I don't know if he really cares about winning.
Right. I mean, it's kind of like Terrell Owens in football. Wherever he went, Terrell Owens was great. But it comes to a point of like, when is the talent not worth the trouble? And I think, Kyrie's getting to that point where the talent's not worth the trouble.
It's not worth it to me. I mean, I was shocked, honestly, that Cuban thought that would bring him in. Honestly, I think that he just felt like he had to do something to make Luka happy and to make Luka think that he's trying to create a winner. But that was not the right choice. I mean, there was a lot of guys that were available at the trade deadline that they could have brought in. They could have made this team better. They could have made this team more competitive. And Kyrie Irving wasn't going to be that guy.
Right. No one, Kyrie has trouble letting anybody else be the guy. So, I mean, Luka's your man he's your meal ticket down in Dallas for as long as he wants to play there, unless he runs out of town. I mean, Porzingis didn't work down there because Porzingis can't stay on the court forever. I mean, and that was the biggest joke ever. I mean, watching him with the Knicks was just like, I couldn't wait to get him out of town. So, yeah, you gotta get somebody in there. Maybe Cuban should stay out of it and get a good GM in there to run the team for
Oh, you think?
him. Jerry Jones. What is it about these guys in Dallas? These owners, they don't know how to stay out of their own way.
Yeah, I mean, it's these guys all think that they know everything and that they can, build the team. It's not that hard, but the owners that have the most success are the guys that go out and get somebody they trust to handle the personnel, and they run the team. They're the owner, not the GM.
Right.
And, we've seen that happen more than once.
Come down when it's time to collect a trophy. Other than that, just stay upstairs in the box, entertain, the advertisers and everybody else, and whatever else you want to get. The people are going to buy the new stadiums or whatever. Go around to the luxury boxes and talk to those people, but stay out of practice and stay out of the boardroom. Let me run the boardroom. That's how it should be done.
It should, but not always how it is.
And now there was a great April Fool's joke played on one of the radio guys around here. He said the guy calls in and says, I got a lot of sources and I hear that Aaron Rodgers is sick of it. He's 97% leaning towards retirement. The guy was like, no, it's just like April Fools.
Yeah.
But still, they're getting no Lamar. We got to touch on this, while we got some time left. Lamar and Aaron, two of the most talented quarterbacks in football. And right now they're running out of options.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really understand the Lamar Jackson situation. I mean, I understand what's going on with Aaron Rodgers. The Packers are kind of digging their heels in. They're trying to get as much as they can possibly get. They've got some time. I get that. Why Lamar Jackson is on the franchise tag, I don't understand. I mean, I don't get it. Maybe they're all blaming it on that he doesn't have an agent and that, it's his fault for wanting too much. What does he deserve? I mean, let's talk about it for a second, really. Who's better than Lamar Jackson at quarterback? You tell me which guy that has, I'm saying there's like three guys, maybe. Right. I mean, I'd take probably Josh Allen over him, maybe not.
Maybe Burrow.
I'd take Burrow over him. I'd take Mahomes over him.
Any way you look at it, he's in the top 5 quarterbacks in football.
He's a top 5 quarterback in this league, and there is guys all around him getting paid out the wazoo. Kyler Murray's never done anything in this league. He's getting paid out the wazoo. Deshaun Watson sat out and refused to play for a year. He gets $230 million. So if you're telling me that Deshaun Watson, and we all know that's been a joke contract, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's a one-off. That's the Browns. We're not dealing with it." It happened. I'm sorry. You got to look at it and use it. You
set the bar.
It occurred. I mean, I'm sorry. I know we're just like, "Oh, we're not going to count that one," but you have to count it. And he's seeing Daniel Jones get, $160 million after playing decent for 1 year. The guy's 45-16. He deserves his money. Give it to him.
I just think it's so short-sighted of the Jets to not even kick the tires on it. And I hear these people going, I don't want to give up 2 first-round draft choices. For a franchise quarterback who's 25 years old, yes, you give up 2 first-round draft choices.
Who's won the MVP of the league and led the NFL in touchdown passes and ran for 1,200 yards? Yes.
Especially when you've swung and missed as badly as the Jets did drafting a franchise quarterback. You can't get much worse than Sam Darnold and Zach Wilson. The guy, Mr. Ghost and Mr. I don't know what he is. I'll sleep with my mom and best friend.
He may be worse, honestly. Zach Wilson makes Sam Darnold look like a freaking NFL Pro Bowler. He's just an absolute joke. And the fact that you would sit here and tell me that you're not interested in Lamar Jackson when you have whiffed time and time again at the quarterback system. I mean, go back to Mark Sanchez. Yeah. I mean, that guy was not a good NFL quarterback, and they moved up to draft him. And it's been failure after failure in New York. And you're telling me that you don't want to bring in some guy that's a winner?
And is 13 years younger than the guy you got your heart set on. 13 years younger. You have a young team. You have a young coach. What would be better than giving them a young franchise quarterback? Because like I said, even if the Jets get Aaron Rodgers, they got to make it work in 2 years. If they don't make the Super Bowl in the next 2 years, they are right back to where they are now, maybe even worse.
Yeah, I mean,
because Aaron will probably play well enough to get him into the playoffs. So they'll have a draft choice somewhere between, I don't know, 15 and 30. How are you going to get your replacement quarterback now? Put the money in Lamar now. Give him the money. Give him 10 years. Give him what he wants, and he'll make you happy. He's only going to get.
He's going to get better. And
Yeah.
think about the wide receivers in New York compared to his wide receivers that he's had his entire time in Baltimore. That right now he's got 3 guys that are as good or better than anyone he's ever had. I mean, Garrett Wilson. I mean, look at the season he had last year with 3 different quarterbacks starting. You know, he had over 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns. I mean, that's ridiculous. And I honestly, I like Corey Davis. I like Alan Lazard. I like Mims. I like McCole Hardman. I like all those guys better than anyone that's been on the Ravens roster.
Yeah, and they're, like I said, and they're all in Lamar's age range. So you have a team that's going to stay together. You can have a team, yeah, eventually you might lose 1 or 2 of those guys, but for the next 3 years, you're going to be able to compete with the Buffalo Bills and maybe beyond that, because people will want to come and play with Lamar. People will want to come and play.
Buddy, you know, I am with you 100%. If I was Woody Johnson right now, especially with what's going on with Aaron Rodgers and the stalemate, I mean, at least there's your leverage right there. You say, you know, well, you know, if you're not wanting to really move Aaron, we're going to have to talk to Mr. Jackson over here because he is available in the sense that he's got the unrestricted franchise tag on him. So, you know, you're not going to play ball with us. You're going to hold us hostage for 2 1s or whatever the hell it is they want, plus the $59 million. Bam, we're gonna take Lamar. Plus, you can do a long-term deal with Lamar. Maybe not a 10-year contract, but you do a 4 or 5 year deal.
Yeah,
you can put all the money on the back end and continue to use money right now to get free agents. You put $59 million into Aaron Rodgers, you're not going to be able to get anyone else.
Yeah, it makes no sense. I don't know where Woody has done. I don't know where he came up with it. I don't know where Joe Douglas has come up with it, and to put all their hopes and dreams into Aaron Rodgers. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Just because it worked with Tom Brady in Tampa doesn't mean it's going to work up here. It doesn't mean it.
Well, and as we talked about before, you know, Brett Favre, they went all in on him, and he actually played really well. But because he was 40 years old and he had never missed a game ever, he finally got injured and couldn't play. And then they were out, and then they got rid of him after a year because he really didn't want to be there. So who's to say that Aaron Rodgers will even be there next year? Let's be honest. Let's say they get him. Let's say they pay the $59 million. Let's say they make the playoffs first or second round, they get knocked out. Who's to say he's coming back?
No,
I mean, he does this dance every single year. He wants all the attention on him. If he's moving around, there's going to be more people talking about him. The more places he may go, or the more questions around what he does. So that's what he wants. He doesn't want to go somewhere and stay there and be a fixture for 3 or 4 years and quietly work behind the scenes. He wants to be making news on the Pat McAfee show with Pat McAfee in his tank top every day.
Pick this. I mean, just to project out, say Jimmy Garoppolo fails in Vegas, which he could. I mean, he's playing. He's got. I mean, I love Jimmy Garoppolo. You and I have been fans of his, but the fact of the matter is, he's still got to make the Raiders better than the Chiefs and the Chargers, which is going to be a tall task. So all of a sudden, say they make the playoffs. Say Devontae Adams calls up Aaron Rodgers and says, you know, Jimmy's good, but we need someone like you. We can make it over the top. And those two put a plan together, and now he wants to play with the Raiders. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. There's no guarantee. Even if you do get him now, there's no guarantee he'll be back the following year. So why not go after Lamar Jackson, sign him to a long-term deal, put all the money on the back end of it, make a run to win a Super Bowl in the next 4 or 5 seasons, and get out of the Giants' shadow and, you know, actually make some noise, considering, you know, the team up the road has won 6 Super Bowls with Bill Belichick, who left your team high and dry.
And the team you shared a stadium with has won 4.
Yeah, and you've won nothing.
You know, you've won one
since Joe Namath was there.
And unfortunately, that was just 50-something years ago. So that's okay. Keep going.
Yeah, that was a little bit before my time. You think they'd want to do something again while before the owners passes away, but who knows?
All right. Well, I want to talk a little bit about baseball because I don't know if you watched any of it. We're only in the third day, of course. Around here, the Mets lost yesterday, so now everybody wants to make 7 trades. I don't know. You see, baseball doesn't work on sports talk shows because there's not, every day there's another game, and the perception changes with who's pitching or who got hot in that one game. You can't. It just doesn't work in sports talk baseball because what you think's happening today doesn't really happen today. So it doesn't make sense. Whereas football, you can examine for a week. Basketball, you can examine for a couple of days in between games usually, where you can figure out what's going on and the matchups and everything. Baseball, it's just drives you crazy. But the rules, I like some of the new rules. I like the pitch clock, the size of the bases. I don't even worry about that. The one thing that was really freaky in the first Met game, and I know you didn't see it, but Pete Alonso was on first base, and Jeff McNeil was up, and Jeff McNeil hit a foul ball. Well, Alonso took his time getting back to first base, and the umpire charged a strike on McNeil.
Wow.
Because of Alonso delaying the game. And I was like, that can't be right. They just can't. And Major League Baseball has since come out and said it was the wrong call. But I was like sitting there going, that could have cost you a game right there. It was like it was really weird. But I mean, it's not even his fault. He got hit with it.
I'd be pissed off if I was up at bat. I'd be like, get your ass back on that bag, son.
Oh God, yeah.
Making it tough for me. But yeah, I did watch the opener with the Yankees. Judge went yard. Also, your boy Garrett Cole pitched a really good game.
Yeah, and, but only 6 innings.
Yeah, but he still struck out 11. So they're not gonna run him out there for 9 innings in his opener. Man, come on.
But the best thing I heard, and it was I listen to Anita Marks every Sunday morning. She does a really good job. And she had a baseball expert on last year. And as he said, which is true, and I like Aaron Judge. I think he's a great player. I think the Yankees had to sign him. But signing him to that contract coming off that year, he will never hit that. No one hits 60 home runs a year every year. And I think the over-under in Vegas for him this year is 45. So
if he hits 45, I'll be very impressed.
Well, and even if he hits 45, that's 17 less than when you paid for.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's like, that's the whole thing about when you pay for somebody that is coming off a year like he had, you have to overpay and you get screwed in the end because he can't keep matching that. No. It's just impossible. That was his lifetime, his best year ever. He's not, even Babe Ruth, didn't hit 60 home runs every year. Even Hank Aaron never hit 60 home runs. I mean, so it's crazy, but I'm looking forward to baseball season. Actually, I'm going to Fenway in July to see the Mets play up there. Looking forward to that. So,
yeah, maybe they'll the rules. I give them credit for making changes, and trying to get more fans interested. I mean, there's definitely been the departure of some of the younger folks in watching baseball, and I think they're trying to do things to bring those eyes back on the game, and I give them credit for that. Whether it'll work or not, I don't know. But I feel like, to me, it was kind of weird that you had a guy last year hitting 60 home runs like that. And I felt like there should be more coverage of it. I thought it should be a bigger deal than kind of it was. I mean, I know it got tons of press up there, but, down here and down in the South, and people were like, who cares? Yeah. And I thought it would be a bigger deal because I thought it was unbelievable. And I thought it was one of the best seasons than anybody's ever had ever.
Oh, he carried the Yankees for so much of the season. I mean, he was incredibly clutch, and he's an incredibly nice guy too. From what I hear, he's a really good guy. And he's a really good player. Yankees are really happy to have him. They got a new shortstop. Everybody's excited about Anthony Volpe.
Yeah.
A little scared for the kid because already they're talking about him being the next Jeter. Can you let him be Anthony Volpe first, please?
At least for a game,
Yeah,
maybe.
pumping the brakes on the Hall of Fame, maybe. So I mean, I look forward. It's going to be a fun season up here. I think, and baseball's a long season. That's the good thing about baseball. It's a long season. It gives you something to do every night of the week instead of watching some stupid reruns or some sitcom or some news. So
yeah, there's no doubt. I'm excited it's back. Was over at the local minor league park today as they had the Fan Fest, and it was pretty cool seeing the baseball stadium open back up and see everybody back out with their gloves on and down on the field running around. It was cool. It smelled like baseball season out there. It was pretty awesome.
Oh yeah. So before we go, just want to put a shout out. Hopefully UConn makes it through Miami. Hopefully they win. But another Connecticut team has a chance to win the Frozen Four. Quinnipiac, who I went to see a couple times this year, very impressive team. They're in the Frozen Four, playing against, of course, your favorite team, Michigan.
Yeah, no, my co-host on Man Coverage, James Bonneville, is a big Minnesota guy, but one of his best friends is the head coach to the women's team at Ohio State. Okay. And they won the Frozen Four last year, and this year they got knocked out in the championship game by a kind of an unexpected team, Wisconsin. So I got to watch a little bit of that. Thanks to James turning me on to it. I was going for the Buckeyes, but they did not get it done. They were going for the back-to-back.
College hockey is a lot of fun. I mean, I go to a few games a year. I try and get up there because you can't beat the pizza in New Haven, and what's better than going and watch a hockey game. So it's a lot of fun to go up there and watch it. And it's very affordable and a lot of fun I tell you, these parents here in Connecticut, they spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars to take their kids to Madison Square Garden to see the Rangers. And nothing wrong with the Rangers. They're having a great year this year. But to get close to the action, to have some fun, take it to a college game. It's about time people in the Northeast start realizing that college sports are as good as the pros.
Yeah, no doubt. I when I worked for Comcast Sportsnet in Philadelphia, it was crazy to me. There was a big following of the Flyers, obviously,
right,
in Philly. There's Flyer fanatics, but they also had a minor league team called the Phantoms. And there was just as big of a crowd that went to the Phantoms game that went to the Flyers game, but it was different people. And it was crazy for me to watch that because I was like, what? Didn't they have a hockey game last night? They're like, oh, yeah, well, tonight's the Phantoms. I'm like, who's that? Like, oh, stick around, buddy. And I was like, whoa, it was just as full, when they played. So
they had them playing in the same. They had them in the same building.
No, they played over at the old what's it called? Where the Sixers used to play back in the day. The Spectrum. That's where the Phantoms used to play until they tore it down, and then finally now they do play in the same building.
Well, we got the Sound Tigers up the road, but all right, let's get going. We got the college championships to watch this weekend. Looking forward to it. Who's your pick?
You know what? I have no clue at this point. I mean, I did not pick any of these four teams to be in it. But like I said, the team that's looked the best so far is UConn. So I'm kind of pulling for them. I'm kind of expecting a letdown, but I hope I'm wrong.
I hope you're wrong too, and I agree with you. This game tonight worries me. 9:00, I'll be sweating in front of my TV, hoping that they can get through because, like we talked about earlier in the show, Larinaga is a damn good coach and is a good team, and and they're due to have an off night. I hate to say it, but we will see.
Yep.
All right, you on tomorrow or no?
No, not tomorrow, but definitely check out the show from last week. We had former All-American Eric Westmoreland, Jacksonville Jaguar, Cleveland Brown, Tennessee Volunteer national champion on the show. Unbelievable player back in his day. He shared some great stories. He's an even better guy. So check out Man Coverage from last week.
All right. Have a great rest of the weekend, and I will be in touch.
Sounds good, buddy. Take it easy.